Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we are going to be reviewing the Sarah Jane Adventures story, The Wedding of River Song, Part 1. Now this was a Patreon request from one of my top tier patrons, the 5th Doctor, and I did, since they are technically separate episodes, because the Sarah Jane Adventures is a half-hour show on CBBC, I did want to review the parts separately. So this is Part 1. This episode, of course, is famous because David Tennant guest stars as the 10th Doctor in this story. And he doesn't actually show up till the end of Part 1. But it's always nice to see more of David Tennant, especially at the time this aired. I was a huge Tennant fanboy for a long time. He was my solid number 2 Doctor for a long time. Even though I grew up with Classic Who, he was my solid number 2 for a long time. I like throughout the course of this story, there are those times when you hear the TARDIS trying to materialize, but it can't. There's about 2 or 3 times over the course of the story where you hear the TARDIS like it's trying to land, but something's wrong. The sound is off a little, which you learn in Part 2 why that is. But it's nice because it gives you these hints that, you know, that sounds kind of like the TARDIS. What's going on? That's almost like the Doctor's going to show up. And then, of course, there's that feeling that something is wrong, because it's not like Sarah Jane to get married. Now, I don't know ahead of time how much it was published that the 10th Doctor was going to be showing up on the show. I don't know if that was a shock when he shows up at the end, or if people knew ahead of time, hey, the 10th Doctor is going to be guest starring in this story. I don't really know. And again, this aired right around when Tennant was leaving. I actually think this is the last thing he filmed as the 10th Doctor, before Day of the Doctor. I think he actually filmed End of Time and then went back and filmed this, even though this aired before End of Time, if I remember correctly. I did like the scene with the little alien running around there trying to catch when it shows up in the box. And of course, Sarah's trying to introduce Paul to Luke, her son, in the story. And while they're trying to introduce, of course, she doesn't want Paul, thinks his name, to find out about, what she does for a living, obviously, what she really does for a living. And so I like how Ronnie and Clyde are having to go after I enjoy that whole scene with them trying to catch the bug. The little incidental music there is really humorous and funny, and it's a funny, that whole little part is just funny. I really enjoyed it. I like the kind of smack talk between Mr. Smith and K9 at the beginning when they're spying on Sarah Jane. Just like a child. I love that. Oh, they're following her. Alright, she's up to something. Let's put a tracker on. And they actually have the high-tech equipment to tell, to track her. Like every child wants in that situation. I like K9 and Mr. Smith kind of having a little smack talk going on between them. I don't know why that amused me. And again, I like how it slowly builds something is off. I like Clyde in this. I like how even he realizes this isn't like Sarah Jane. This is moving too fast. I'm always wary when I hear of people I know, oh, you're already this involved with this person you just met. What do you mean you're getting married already? I'd be the same way. I'd be, what? Because I'm one of those people, I don't think you should know somebody for a couple months and then get married. I think that's silly. Date a couple years first. So I like how the whole time he's kind of the doubting Thomas here. The one that's not quite believing what's going on. He's the suspicious one. Finding out that the house the guy's supposed to live in, that it's for sale, that there's newspaper over the windows, everything's packed up, there's mail dropped in the mail slot. Those little suspicions making him more and more curious. And then, of course, once Sarah Jane gets the ring on in the episode, we see it glow a little bit, so we know something is up. And how that's interwoven with them finding the house deserted with him proposing marriage, and then the ring flashing red. It's nice how it builds all that. And then how the ring starts affecting her, and all the stuff that as a journalist she normally would be like, hey, wait, what? She's suddenly smoothing over, up to even deactivating Mr. Smith. It's nice to see all of that coming to fruition to where we as the audience are like, okay, something's up here. Something is definitely up. I did like the little bit when Paul and Luke were eating dinner with Sarah and they played the little joke on her about, oh, we were just thinking about, oh, never mind, it's not important. No, tell me. No, it's not important. It's not. No, tell me. That whole little bit when Paul was like, well, she's a journalist. She'll want to get the truth out of you. Hey, watch this. That was funny. That amused me. That's very fitting for Sarah Jane, actually. No, tell me. I want to know. I enjoy that. Elizabeth Sladen is great in this. I'm not a huge fan of Doctor Who spin-offs. Like, I never really got into Torchwood. As much as I love Captain Jack, I never cared for Class at all. And even Sarah Jane Adventures, I've only seen a few. I've seen the first episode, I think the second episode. The second episode has the Sladine in it, right? I've seen that. And then I've seen this one, and then I've seen Death of the Doctor with the 11th Doctor. Those are the only ones I've seen. I do need to see Enemy of the Bane one day, because I know the Brigadier's in it. But I don't get into Doctor Who spinoffs. The main draw for Doctor Who for me is the Doctor. I love the Doctor. That's why in like the current era of Doctor Who, as I record this, you know, the 13th Doctor is very lacking as a Doctor. It's why one of the reasons why I have issues with the current era. Part of it she's written wrong. Part of it I don't think she's performed as well as she could be. But the Doctor is always the main draw of an era for me. As much as I love Sarah Jane as a character, she's my favorite companion. I just never really had the urge to watch a lot of her show. And again, it is more geared towards children, obviously. I've noted that even just in the episodes I've seen. I did like at the wedding, the incidental music right before Tennant shows up. It is this very foreboding, something is off, kilter, very atmospheric kind of tone. I can't really remember it right off the top of my head, but it has this sense of foreboding to it, like something, okay, where the other shoe's going to drop, something bad's going to happen, the other shoe's going to drop. It is, you just know something bad's about to happen. And then, of course, you hear the TARDIS, and then right there at the end, you see Tennant rush in, stop this wedding! And he's very frantic, Tennant, stop this wedding! And for some reason, I thought the episode ended there, but it does last a few more seconds as you see, you know, the trickster appear, and the Doctor trying to tell Sarah to get away from Paul, and Paul's grabbing her arm like, it'll be okay, and, you know, wind blowing like crazy, and the trickster like, you're mine. And then they disappear, and Tennant's just like, crap. It's a good cliffhanger. It's really nice to see Tennant coming in, especially if you go into this episode not knowing Tennant is in it. Of course, if you watch it on HBO Max, it's right there in the title. David Tennant shows up in this. But I liked it. I enjoy the wedding. Again, I've seen it once before. I enjoy the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. I like Death to the Doctor better. But in both stories, I prefer Part 2 to Part 1 because Part 2 heavily involves the Doctor a lot more than Part 1 because the Doctor doesn't really show up to the end of Part 1 as well. But I do prefer Death to the Doctor a little more. But I enjoyed this. It was nice to go back and rewatch Part 1, and I should get around to watching Part 2 soon as well. So I want to thank the 5th Doctor for this Patreon request. It has been nice revisiting the first half of this story. If you have a video request you would like to make, my link to my Patreon is down in the description below. Everyone who joins at any tier level gets a free Patreon request, but certain of the higher tier levels, you get a certain number of requests each month if you want to check that out. I have updated my Patreon recently with a couple new tiers, and I've changed a couple things in tiers if you want to check that out. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me, and a link to my Amazon wish list down there as well. I update that regularly. I also want to give a shout out to both of my top tier patrons, the 5th Doctor and Stephen Crane. I appreciate their continued support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. And if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and click the like button and the subscribe button. If you watch my channel often and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead. Not only is it free, but that helps me out. It helps me grow my channel and helps me beat that nasty YouTube algorithm. The YouTube algorithm. So, yeah, I'd also like to know what you think of this story. So comment down below, and if you haven't seen it and you're a big David Tennant fan, you really should see it. It is quite nice. Also, since I'm videotaping in a different spot, I don't have a chance to show off my lightsabers very often. I do my other channel, which is just called Prowl 1701, Prowl space 1701. I actually do lightsaber reviews. So if anyone wants to see one of them, this is my saber forged Talon with a deep red saber. Yes, I like the deep red on it. It looks really good. I don't get a chance to show these off on the Doctor Who channel often, so since I have one next to me, thought I'd pop it out. If you like this saber, I think it's got a good soundboard. You can find it at saberforge.com. That's not any kind of paid advertisement. I like some of their sabers, so I thought I'd give them a mention. Most importantly, thank you for watching.